Welcome back, everybody, and welcome back to our greenhouse series. My name is Michelle, and my husband James and I finished up construction on this beautiful greenhouse about 2 months ago. It's a Canadian deep winter greenhouse. In the last video, I had just planted out most of my garden in hopes to be able to grow food and eat food out of my garden throughout the winter here in Canada. I had mentioned that I was dealing with a few problems with pests. So at that point, I thought that I had spider mites. But thanks to a whole bunch of viewers and commenters, I realized very quickly that it wasn't spider mites that I had, that it was in fact aphids. Since then, I have had a lot of problems with aphids. So we'll go back to the beginning. When we first planted out in the greenhouse, it was the end of my outdoor growing season for 2025. My number one mistake, and I can look back now and tell anybody that, please don't make the same mistake that I did. I saved a whole bunch of plants that I had in my outdoor greenhouse, my other glass greenhouse, as well as my garden, and I moved them with pots and everything into this greenhouse. So I think looking back, that was my number one mistake, because I'm very sure that those plants, i.e. mostly pepper plants, were carrying aphids and spider mites and all of the eggs and all of the things with them. So that was my first problem. So I thought that I would save myself some time and get a head start in the greenhouse by just transplanting things from my other garden, my outdoor garden stuff, into the greenhouse, and I basically completely contaminated my greenhouse. So that being said, here we are with a greenhouse full of aphids, full of spider mites. I can't see the spider mites, but I can see the spider mite webs. So before you lovely people informed me that it was aphids that I was dealing with and not spider mites, I had gotten some predator mites from Copert Canada, which I showed you in the last video. I got the Spictal Ultimites, and they're a little sachet, and I hung them all around. But those particular ones are only for active spider mites. They don't apparently take care of like the nests and the eggs. So I was already behind in my fight right off the bat. So I wasn't getting the right predator mites to fight the problems that I was having in the greenhouse. So at that point, while I was fighting something that didn't really need necessarily to be fighting, I had an aphid infestation that was growing and growing and growing. I had them in my seedling starts. I had them all over pretty much every plant, especially my new seedlings that I would plant out. So any little spinach seedlings that I planted into the ground were completely covered in aphids. Surprisingly, all of my tropicals, might not be surprising to you, but all my tropicals are completely fine, and all my tomato plants so far are completely fine. But pretty much everything else is completely infested with aphids. Another amazing tip that you guys gave me in the comments was to use diatomaceous earth, which I'm very familiar with because I use it in my chicken coop for mites, the scaling leg mites, lice, all that kind of stuff, and it works amazing. I went out and I got a big bag with the little duster, and I basically, after my Spictal Ultimites were done their job, that they weren't really doing anything, those predator mites weren't really doing anything, once I just took all the sachets away, and I basically just bombed my entire greenhouse with diatomaceous earth. So masked up, completely covered in diatomaceous earth from head to toe, went through every single plant, top and bottom, did all of the soil, literally went around with my magnifying glass and checked the stems, front and back of every leaf in every single plant that I have in the greenhouse. And let me tell you, that's not how I pictured myself gardening this winter, but here we are. One thing that's amazing about diatomaceous earth is you can look under a microscope, or a magnifying glass, and you can see the aphids, and you can spray them on contact, and they basically die on contact. The bad thing about diatomaceous earth is, and I quickly realized this because I kept checking after I had, bombed everything with the earth, is that if you miss even one tiny part of your stem or you're underneath your leaf, and there's one little mite there that hasn't gotten into the diatomaceous earth, it will survive and it will multiply. And those ones that they multiplied will multiply more. So it's incredibly time consuming. You have to be extremely thorough. Cost wise, it's a lot more economical than the predator mites, because with predator mites, you have to have them coming in weekly or bi-weekly, and that can add up. It can be, between $70 and $100 a month. When I first ordered my predator mites, I had to wait 2 weeks to get them as well. Actually, it might have even been up to 3 weeks because of where we live. So during that time, I wasn't using diatomaceous earth or doing anything, and everything was just multiplying. I've certainly learned my lesson in regards to what I bring into like a clean, sterile environment. So if I was to go back in time, I never would have brought any of my plants from my other gardens and greenhouses into this greenhouse. I would have started everything from scratch, from seed. I wouldn't have known until you guys have told me, but I would have treated my soil with some predator mites. We have amazing soil. It's aged manure and compost, our own homemade compost, as well as worm castings and biochar. So we have amazing soil. Because it is new, I hadn't gotten any worms in here to aerate everything, which is another thing I'm going to do in the spring. So I guess looking back, timing was not on my side as well. So another huge factor that I haven't even touched on yet is that we planted out at, I think it was the beginning of November, and it's now January. So we planted everything into the greenhouse in November. And basically, the day we planted, we had sun, full sun. And when we get sun in here, it is amazing. Like, it heats this place up to tropical conditions. The greenhouse works amazing as long as we have the sun. We have had so far the most mildest winter I have ever experienced, honestly, being a Canadian. We've barely dipped below 0. So we've gone maybe to -9, -10, a handful of nights, not even during the day. We've had some snow, but it quickly turns to slush and melts. We've had a ton of rain, and those conditions, we are socked in. So when it's really, really cold here, it tends to be clear and we get the sunny days. So we're talking like -20, -30. We'll have completely clear days and sun, which is what we were hoping for in this greenhouse. And I know, like in Saskatchewan, Arctopia, Dean's greenhouse, his works amazing because they get tons of sun. Here, it's a lot different. So going into this, we did obviously know that we have very limited sun in the winter, but this winter has been by far the least amount of sun that we've seen since we've lived here. So we have the warm temperatures, which means we don't have to use as much resources to heat the greenhouse, to keep it to the 18 to 22 degrees that we like to keep it at for the day. Excuse me. But we haven't had the sun. And so the plants have been surviving. Most of the plants, like most of the tropicals, the banana plants, they all seem to be dormant. I have actually a whole bunch of broccoli and cauliflower plants that, again, don't seem to be affected by any of the pests. They are basically dormant. So it's been a really tough year. And when plants don't have one of the main things that they need, which is sun to photosynthesize and do all of the things that the amazing things that the sun does to them plants, they're not as healthy as they can be. And then of course they're going to be more prone to attracting pests. Like I said, I bombed my whole greenhouse. Like, it looked like it had snowed in here. I left that for about 5 days, checked every day the plants to see if I had missed some undersides of leaves or some stems, and kept spraying and spraying and spraying with the diatomaceous earth. And then just yesterday, I poured water over top of everything and just basically washed everything off. I left it overnight and then I came back and I checked a few plants this morning to see if, hopefully, fingers crossed, that I had perhaps eradicated most of the um, mite problem. But I did, in fact, see a few mites. So I went ahead and I sprayed those plants again with diatomaceous earth and then found, for example, my grape tree that I had revived from before, um, completely covered in aphids. So I need your help. My, I know that there's a ton of things. I have read, James, my husband, has been reading. I just read an article this morning about don't buy ladybugs because they're farmed ladybugs. I didn't get into too much detail about why not to do that, because ladybugs were actually going to be my go-to in the spring when we're able to get ladybugs shipped to us here. Tell me your thoughts about ladybugs. Tell me your thoughts about diatomaceous earth. Tell me your thoughts about predator mites. So like I said before, the diatomaceous earth I like because I can control where I am spraying that. I can see the mite under the magnifying glass and I can spray that right away. However, it is extremely time consuming. I'm willing to put in that time. I'm willing to do that. That is basically what I've been doing for the last month. It is cost effective, way better, than way easier on the pocketbook than, forking out 70 to $90 a week or every 2 weeks. Something that I don't like about the predator mites is I don't know if they're working. Like, I can't see them working. So they're getting shipped in these packets in ice packs and whatnot, and like, you don't honestly know. You have to trust that this company is sending you something that's alive and that it's working. But I like to have a little bit more control over those things, and I didn't see any of what they were supposed to look like, these predator mites. I didn't see anything on my plants under my magnifying glass, so I don't even know 100% if they were active. I know that I have to use one or the other. Okay, so I know that if I use diatomaceous earth, there's 0 point in me using predator mites because the diatomaceous earth is going to kill the predator mites. So I have to pick one or the other. Do you think that I should continue to just diatomaceous earth until spring? Once spring comes, I'm going to open up the doors. I'm going to open up everything that I can so I can get all of Mother Nature's predator mites to come in and do their job. Do you think that that's the best thing to do? My goal is, because this winter we've really haven't harvested anything out of here. I have a little bit of lettuce growing. They're just, everything's just so slow because there's just no sun. So, do you think that I should just wait until the spring and then just, let Mother Nature do its thing? My goal is I have a whole bunch of tomato and pepper and all kinds of things started. So I would like to get a head start on my season. So here where I live in zone 4 something, it's like 4A, we never plant outside until after the May long weekend. That is just the golden rule. My goal this year is to be able to be ahead of that timeline in this greenhouse, which means I'm going to have to get my mite and aphid problem under control. Any of these little seedlings that I'm putting out are the favorite thing for the aphids because they're nice and juicy and full of sap and sweet. And so every time I put something new out, I have to completely spray it in diatomaceous earth and da 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 da. We will very likely be seeing the sun more often come in the next month or two. So I'm really hoping that I can get a head start because I'd like to have peppers and tomatoes and herbs and cucumbers and melons and all of those things that I plan to grow in here. Broccolis and cauliflowers and all those wonderful things earlier than my typical outdoor growing season. That's my new goal for 2026 for this greenhouse. And then I'm hoping that by the time fall comes around at the end of this year and my outdoor growing season is over, that this greenhouse will have created its proper ecosystem by me allowing the nature's original mites and worms and predators and ladybugs and wasps and butterflies and all the things that a growing environment needs. It didn't get that this year. It didn't get any, it just was an environment that was just sort of stuck. I didn't, the timing of it didn't allow me to, for this greenhouse, create its own little ecosystem. So another thing that I'm really hoping is that it will be able to create that over this summer. So I'm rambling now. Yeah, please help me out. I really want to thank all of you guys. I loved all the comments. There's been a ton of comments in the last couple videos that I've put out about this greenhouse. You guys are really excited for me. I appreciate that so much. And there's a lot of you out there that have a lot of expertise and information, and I cherish that and I appreciate it very, very much. So please drop what you think I should do, any tips, any hints down in the comments. And thank you so much for listening. And I will keep you posted on the next video.